out in front of you. So when you're sitting with the legs long and straight, glue them together, pull the belly in, take a deep breath up high in the rib cage and reach your arms up to the sky. Keep the flat back as you hinge forward at your hips. So lengthen those arms up next to your ears, your shoulders are shrugging down. Return back to vertical. Take another deep breath up high in the rib cage while you draw the navel in, and then exhale, hinging forward. When you return back up to straight, take another deep breath, and this time you're going to round over the legs, really bringing yourself in deep if you can, trying to get your forehead as close to the legs as possible. Shoulders shrug down, your feet are flexed, pull the toes back. Keep the shoulders out of the ears, your navel drawn in, and then bring yourself all the way back up to straight. Bend one knee and drop that knee to the floor. Sit up tall and then twist towards the bent leg. We usually do these stretches at the end. When you're ready, you're going to fold into the straight leg, but keep looking at the bent leg. Sink deeper into the stretch. Remember to keep the foot flexed of the long straight leg. When you return back up, we'll do the same thing on the other side, sitting tall and straight and rotating. Pulling the belly in, grow a little taller, twist a little further, and then fold into the straight leg. Sink down a little deeper. When you return back up, both knees are going to bend. Soles of the feet are together and knees are wide. Let the knees just fall to the floor to open up the hips. And if you can deepen the stretch, lean forward into the legs. Try not to grip into your neck. Return right back up. Draw the knees together, and then we're going to roll back onto our back, keeping the knees bent, and you can keep them together. You could bring them apart a little further apart if you want, whatever feels better for the hips. With this one, it is parallel feet, though. Rock your pelvis back, and then rock your pelvis forward. So it's just a movement in the pelvis, moving that lumbar spine, rocking back and forth. While you're doing this, your shoulders are shrugging down. You're lengthening the back of the neck. I want you to rock back into the imprint and hold that imprint, pull the belly in, pull up on the pelvic floor, and then lift the hips up into a bridge. Hold at the top for a deep breath, and then slowly roll back down until you rest right back into that imprint. So keep that tilt in the pelvis, the low back down, and then lift the hips up again. Hold at the top for a deep breath. Now focus on pressing the toes into the floor, and then slowly rolling right back down. We'll do one more, lifting the hips up. Hold the hips up high, take a deep breath in, and then rolling right back down. Now rock to neutral, so you're not imprinting the low back anymore. You're more focused on keeping hip bones and puke bone on the same plane. Tighten that imaginary belt around your waist, and now we're gonna flex the upper spine. So you curl up, look into the belly, and when you did that, hopefully the pelvis and the lumbar spine did not change position. You're gonna flex the upper spine up, exhaling, inhale, resting, head and shoulders back down. Remember to not grip into the neck. You want to keep the shoulders slid down out of the ears. Keep the feet parallel. Keep pressing the toes into the floor too if you can to make the back of the legs work a little harder. We'll do one more, curling up. Now this time when you rest down, we're going to add to it. So as you roll your head and shoulders back down to the floor, bring your arms to the ceiling and then lift your hips up into a bridge. So your arms are really lengthening overhead, but not gripping your shoulders up into your neck. Press the toes to the floor. As you roll your spine back down out of the bridge, your arms return to the ceiling, and then we go right into that flexion again. So it's just smooth, fluid movement. When you rest down your thoracic spine, the lumbar spine lifts up. Rolling back down one vertebrae at a time, and then curling the upper spine right back up. We'll do one more. Head and shoulders down, your arms are reaching overhead. Lift the hips up into a bridge. When you roll back down out of the bridge, just return your arms by your side, and you can keep head and shoulders down. Bring the knees together if they weren't already together, and you're going to drop your knees to one side. And then we'll bring the knees up and over to the other side. When you bring the legs back to center, we're going to do our toe taps. So you always have the option of doing the alternating toe taps one leg at a time. But if you have a ball today, put the ball between your knees. I think everybody has a ball on this one, but glue the knees together. So you're really trying to press into that ball if you have it. If you don't have the ball, just try to keep the legs together. And remember that you always have that single leg option if you want for easier. Before we begin the toe taps, find your neutral. So hip bones and pubic bone on the same plane, pull the belly in, press the back of the arms into the floor. Both legs are gonna lower and lift. If you needed to, you could keep your hands on your hips to make sure your pelvis is stable and not moving. When that pelvis tilts, the lumbar spine moves, and we're trying not to do that. So use your core strength to keep everything stable and just hinge to the hips, lower and lift. Now, if you wanted to work your abs a little harder, you could add the flexion of the upper spine, where you're curled up, looking into the belly and doing the same toe taps. Remember, you're squeezing the ball. If you didn't want to use the ball, you could just do the alternating single leg version. Inhale as the legs lower, exhale, lift. Do 2 more. Last one's harder. Lower and hold it if you can. Don't let the feet rest to the floor yet. Squeeze the ball tighter. Reach longer arms. If they're on the mat, press them into the floor. Pull the belly in deeper. And then you can rest on head and shoulders if you're curled up, and then rest your feet to the floor. So keep the ball between the knees, and we're gonna do bridging. If you don't have the ball, just keep your knees in line with your hips. Hands are by your side, rock your pelvis back, lift the hips up, and hold that bridge again that we were doing before. But now with the ball, you're gonna squeeze for little pulses like you're trying to pop the ball. If you don't have the ball, just hold the bridge. Regardless, we're all focused on pressing the toes into the floor. Feel the back of the legs working harder, squeezing the glutes, pulling the belly in deeper, always trying to narrow the waistline. Do one more squeeze as tight as you can into that ball, and then slowly roll back down until you rest. So we're gonna go into the 100 next. If you wanted to, you could move the ball to your ankles for the 100. If you liked to keep the legs at tabletop the whole time, you could keep the ball between your knees. But if you plan to go to straight legs for the 100, put the ball between the ankles. So when you're ready, curl your upper spine up, look into the belly, reach the arms long, lengthen the legs out to straight, and start pumping the arms. Inhaling for 5 counts, exhaling for 5. Longer arms reaching. Your shoulders are always shrugging down out of the ears. Always think pulling up on the pelvic floor too. Squeezing that ball a little tighter. Inhaling for 5, exhaling for 5. Try to get the legs a little bit lower if you can. Focus on the breath up high in the rib cage while you draw the navel in a little bit deeper. Squeezing the glutes, squeezing the ball. This is our last 10. Now, after you exhale, I want you to hold everything still, curl up higher, and then you can finally rest back down. So get rid of the ball if you have it. We're gonna go into some leg circles, but before you do the full circles, let's do another hamstring stretch. So one leg is straight onto the floor, hug the opposite leg into your chest. So just a little bent knee, hugging it in. And then when you're ready, you're gonna lengthen that leg to the ceiling and pull it in for a stretch. And when you're ready, point both feet, bring your hands back down to the floor, and then you can start circling that lifted leg. Inhale as you start, exhale as you finish. Pay attention to your pelvis, keeping your hips squared off, facing the ceiling. That lower leg is considered your anchor, so keep it tight and strong. Remember not to bring chin towards the ceiling. You're always bringing chin towards your chest to lengthen the back of the neck. Next time you get that leg to the ceiling, you're gonna pause for a moment, flex both feet, and go in the opposite direction. You could always keep your hands on your hips if you need to help keep your pelvis stable. But if the arms are long onto the mat, reach them towards the bottom edge of the mat and press the arms into the floor. Might as well be working the back of the arms and your upper back. Bring that leg to the ceiling, and we'll do another hamstring stretch. So with the leg up to the ceiling, grab onto it and pull it in again. And then when you're ready, we'll switch, do the same stretch on the other side first. So just hug the knee in first, little hip stretch. Lengthen the leg to the ceiling so you get the hamstring stretch. Flexing the foot always makes it deeper. When you're ready, have both feet pointed, hands back down by your side. Feel free to keep the hands on the hips if you want. Inhale as you start the circle. Exhale as you finish. Don't let that lower leg get lazy. It's still a working leg. The lifted circling leg is longer, stronger. Really tell the quadricep to work hard. Keep the leg straight. When you bring the leg up, you're going to pause, flex both feet, and go in the opposite direction. Roll into the hip. Still drawing the waistline in, narrowing the waistline. We got one more full circle rolling through the hip. And when that leg gets up to the ceiling, keep the foot flexed so you can pull it in for the hamstring stretch. Now bring both legs up to tabletop because we're going to go into the ab series. Remember to take breaks if you need it. We're going to curl up, look into the belly, hug one knee in as the opposite lengthens away, and then switch. Really stretching that leg long. You're reaching out of the hip. Longer legs. Do one more stretch on each side and then bring the legs together. Both legs go forward as your arms extend back behind you and then come right back to center. Inhale as you open, exhale back to center. Squeezing the legs together. Try to stay flexed up in the upper spine if you can, but feel free to keep head and shoulders down. You have two more. Squeeze the glutes when the legs go out on the last one, and then you bring it back to center. We go into our scissor kicks. One leg to the ceiling, one straight leg falls down, and then you switch. If you want to deepen the stretch, do this while reaching out through the heel so your feet are flexed. Remember, you're not gripping into the neck. Your abs are still tight and pulled in. A deep breath up high in the rib cage, a lateral rib cage breathing. When you bring both legs together, bring them to the ceiling and point both feet. So head and shoulders get a rest, your arms are down by your side, glue the arms into the floor, and then both legs are gonna lower and lift. So wherever your low back is, when the legs are at the ceiling, you're trying to maintain that position as the legs lower and lift. Really trying to challenge your core strength to not let the pelvis or the lumbar spine move. Glue the legs together. Point the feet, reach through the toes. You always want that visual of longer legs. Pressing the shoulders into the floor, lengthening the back of the neck. You could do one more lower and lift. When you bring the legs to the ceiling, go ahead and bend the legs. Bring your hands together behind your head. Curl up, look into the belly, and we go right into crisscross. Keep the elbows wide so you're not wrapping them around your head. Keep your shoulders slid down. And you're always trying to curl up a little bit higher too. Stretching that leg out long. You can do one more twist on each side. When you come back to center, rest down, head, shoulders, your feet. Lengthen those legs down to straight and reach your arms way back overhead. Lifting the rib cage, stretching through the abdomen. When you bring your hands back down by your side, press the arms into the floor, bend your knees, find your neutral so the hip bones are right in line with the pubic bone. We're gonna do the bridging. So I want you to rock the pelvis back and then peel your spine up. Hold your hips up high. So this one, we're gonna do the leg kicks. One leg kicks to the ceiling, bring it back down, do the same on the other side. You are trying to keep your pelvis level the whole time and keep that bridge lifted as high as possible. Remember, your arms are still strong, pressing into the floor. Exhaling as you kick that leg up. Finish up this last set. When both feet are on the floor, you're gonna hold. Take a deep breath and then slowly roll right back down into that imprint and then finish in neutral. So we're gonna do that whole thing again, but we're gonna do the high heel shoes. So elevate the heels. Try to keep your ankles parallel. A lot of times if you lift too high in the heels, the ankles roll outward. So you wanna draw those inner ankle bones together, but still keep heels lined up with your sit bones. When you're ready, rock back into the imprint and then peel the spine up, hold the hips up high. Now it's the same kick, but just keeping those heels up makes the calves work harder, helps strengthen the ankles. If you hate this, Feel free just to go back to flat feet. Exhaling when you kick that leg to the ceiling. You can do one more on each side, keeping the pelvis level. Once both feet are on the floor, take a deep breath and then roll your spine right back down to the mat. You can go ahead and rest your feet to flat, but feel free to do the next set with the heels elevated too if you wanted to. We are going to go right back into that bridge again. Lift the hips and hold it. You can maintain flat feet or elevate the heels, but one leg kicks to the ceiling and keep it. You're going to lower the straight leg, lift it right back to the ceiling. Lower and lift. Remember, the slower you move on this, the harder you work. The easier it is to keep your form. Reach for a longer leg. You can do your last one. Go ahead and switch it out to the other side. Leg kicking to the ceiling, lower and lift. Flexing as you lower the leg, pointing as you lift back up. Reaching out of the hip. You can do your last one. Rest down the foot, whether you're on your toes or the heel. Take a deep breath and then slowly roll back down until you rest. Let's do a hip stretch, cross an ankle over the opposite knee, and then hug it into your chest. Feel that deep hip stretch. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So after that stretch, you are going to lengthen your legs down onto the floor. So this next one, you can use your ring, a ball, or some weights, a band, whatever props you want between your hands. So arms are straight to the ceiling, shoulders shrugged down out of the ears, and you want to pull your front ribs in. You're trying to narrow that space between the bottom ribs and your hips. Really engage your core, pull up on the pelvic floor, squeeze your legs together, flex the feet, and we're going in for roll-ups. So head and shoulders come off the floor, come all the way up and stretch over the legs. Stack your spine up to straight and then rolling back down, one vertebrae at a time. Remember, when you lift those arms to the ceiling, don't let the ribs lift to the ceiling. Keep them pulled in. And then exhale as you peel back up and over the legs. Inhale, grow tall, and exhale, rolling back down. Take a deep breath when your head and shoulders are on the floor. Squeeze the ring or the ball. Exhale, lifting up. Remember to glue the legs together. Pull up on the pelvic floor, growing tall, and then rolling back down. Always squeezing that ball or ring if you have it. If you have a band, feel free to pull it harder apart. Stretching a little further, always trying to increase your flexibility. Now we are going to do one more roll up. But when we roll back down to the floor, it's going to be a little different. Stretching forward. Stack back up to straight. Now we're going to roll down real slow, and we're going to stop at the halfway point. Squeeze the legs together. Focus on the tilt here in the pelvis. Draw the navel in deeper. Your shoulders are rolling down and back. And then we're going to draw circles with the arms. Big circles. Remember to focus on the transverse abdominals. Always pulling in deeper, right where that seatbelt crosses. Pulling in. Now we are going to go in the opposite direction with this circle. Squeezing that ball or ring a little tighter. Hollow out the abdomen. When the arms are straight out in front of you, level with shoulders, hold. And we're going to continue the roll down to the floor, but still really, really slow. Really tuck the tailbone under. Still breathing. Try to get that low back down onto the floor. Still squeezing that ring. Still squeezing the legs together. And then when you're ready, you can finish by resting your shoulders and then your head. So now we're going to put the ring or ball between the ankles. Again, that's optional. But this one's roll over, so we're bringing the legs now overhead. So make sure you have enough room behind you. You're not going to kick the wall or the furniture or something. You're going to have your ring or ball between the legs. Legs are straight to the ceiling. Hands are by your side. Press into that ball or ring as hard as you can, and then you're going to pick your hips up and bring legs overhead. Take a deep breath, and then slowly roll back down until you rest, still squeezing those inner thighs together. Take a deep breath. Exhale, legs overhead. Try to do this with flexed feet too if you can to deepen the stretch. So pull the toes back towards the knees, draw the navel in deeper, and then rolling right back down. Now we're going to do two more, but on these next two, feel free to add that jackknife to it. So we go into the rollover just before, and then you can choose just to come out of the rollover, or you could go up, pike up into that jackknife. So come overhead, squeeze the ring. If you can, lift way up onto your shoulder blades so you lengthen like a pencil, squeezing that ring or ball a little tighter. And then while you're in this lift, pull the belly in and roll from there. So don't go into your roll over, just roll down at a jackknife, rolling one vertebrae down at a time until you rest. So hard to talk during that one. I'll try again. So when you're ready, go into the rollover. Feel free just to come out of the rollover from here if you want, but jackknife up, long straight legs, and then rolling out of the jackknife while you continue to reach those legs straight to the ceiling. Keep head and shoulders on the floor, and then you get a rest. Keep the ball or ring in between your ankles. If you have it, just bend the legs to tabletop. With the legs at tabletop, we're going into can-can. So this is going to make your obliques work a little harder. Keep your head and shoulders down onto the floor. Press the arms into the mat. And we're going to tip your legs to one side so that your hips are at an angle, but head and shoulders on the floor. Extend the legs to straight, bend them back in, and then rock to the other side. Extend the legs to straight, bend back in. Now just keep alternating, lengthening those legs out at an angle, squeezing the ball or ring a little tighter. Press the shoulders to the floor, so when you're at that tipped angle, the opposite shoulder is not trying to come up off the mat. Keep those arms strong, pressing into the floor too. Pull the belly in deeper. Now extend those legs out to one side and just hold it, just to torture yourself a bit. Squeeze the legs together, pull the belly in, you're holding, you're breathing. Go ahead and bend the legs. We'll rock to the other side to hold over there. So when you're ready, lengthen the legs to straight, still breathe. Longer, straighter legs. Go ahead and bend the legs, bring the legs back to center, and then you get to take a little break. Get rid of the ring, get rid of whatever props you have, because it's just gonna be a stretch here. Lengthen those arms way back overhead, lengthen the legs, breathing and stretching. So one arm is gonna continue to reach overhead as the other arm reaches down towards your feet. So you're just stretching those arms in opposite directions, but your spine stays long and straight in between. Go ahead and switch. Same thing on the other side. One arm reaching down, one arm reaching overhead. Go ahead, both arms down by your side. We're gonna roll to our side so we can go into our side leg series. Obviously, either side is fine. So you have the option of staying all the way down onto the floor using the lower arm for neck support, but if you can, prop yourself up onto your elbow. Shoulders shrug down out of the ears so we're not sinking in and getting lazy here in your upper back. So you can use your ring, you can use the ball if you want, and press into the floor of the top arm. The legs are gonna do the lift and lower, so point as you lift, lower as you flex the foot. But the legs forward slightly helps with the balance, or bring them back so you're in a straight line. Try to keep the waistline lifted too, so we're not sinking down to the floor. And the shirt doesn't really help with form. Pointing and flexing. Toes and our thighs to work hard too, whenever those legs meet together in the middle. Inhaling and exhaling. We'll do 2 more lifts. When you bring that leg to hip height, you're going to hold and just draw small circles. Keep the lower leg tight and strong. Keep pushing the floor away through that lower arm. Still breathing. Think longer legs reaching out of the hip. And we're going to flex that top foot to draw the circle in the opposite direction. Sorry, my son is over there just drinking water, staring at me. It's really awkward. You're going to hold the legs at hip height and then swing forward and back. Flexing as you swing the leg forward and then pointing as you go back. Keep pressing into the ring. Keep that lower leg tight and strong. We'll do 2 more kicks. Last one. When you bring the legs together, let's put the ring or ball between the ankles. Obviously, that's optional. You could just keep the legs together, but you're also going to keep head and shoulders on the floor for this one. Once you get that ball or ring between the ankles, you are going to lengthen yourself to one straight long line down the center of your mat. Try not to grip into your neck. The top hand can be on the floor if you need it. Hopefully it's over your legs so that we don't need that front arm for balance support. So try to squeeze that ball or ring a little tighter. Pull the belly in deeper, and you're staying balanced on that lower hip. Squeezing that ring. We'll do 2 more lifts. Now lift and hold it. If you have that ball or ring, you're going to squeeze tighter for little pulses. If you don't have any props, you're only going to lift and lower the top leg while the lower leg stays lifted off the floor. So if you have that ball or ring, keep the legs up and keep doing little pulses. We have 3 more. And then when you're ready, you can rest. So as we transition to the other side, roll onto your belly first, pause for a moment, and we're going to strengthen our glutes, low back, and the back of the legs. So while you're here, you're going to rest your hands underneath your head so that you can use them for neck support. Lift both legs and lower the legs. Lift and lower. Now you're drawing the navel in the whole time. You're taking the deep breath up high in the rib cage. You're always pulling up on the pelvic floor, lifting and lowering the legs. Keep them moving. Now if you can, get those legs up, hold it, and then do beats where you're kicking those heels together. Lift the legs a little higher. Your shoulders are shrugging down out of the ears. Do one more deep breath, and then you can go ahead and take a break. So roll to the other side. Just for the sake of looking at the camera, I'm going to turn around this side. But if you want, you could just keep on rolling over and then hope we propped up onto the elbow on the other side. So if you want, press into the ring or the ball and begin the leg lift at the top leg. Point as you lift, flex as you lower. Shoulders shrug down out of the ears. Pulling the belly in. Don't let that lower leg get lazy. Keep it a tight, strong working leg. Narrowing the waistline. Hopefully you're still pushing the floor away with that lower arm to stay strong and lifted out of the shoulder. Bring the leg to hip height and just draw small circles. Keep pressing into that ball or ring. Always doing that full body scan, thinking about every muscle group is working hard. Drawing the navel in, pull up on the pelvic floor, flex the foot, go in the opposite direction. Think longer leg reaching out of the hip, still breathing. Now bring the legs right back together. We're going to put that ring between the ankles. So with the ring between the ankles, squeeze as tight as possible. Okay. Sally's got a question. Did we do the kicks? Yeah. Did we do those on the other side? I know. This is one of the reasons why I hate doing Zoom classes, because normally you guys are like, Bridget, you forgot this one, kicking forward and kicking back. So now you know when I work out by myself, I probably forget half the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing. Just kind of go with it in my own thoughts. So keep pushing the floor with that lower arm as you're swinging forward and back with this top leg. You're trying not to move your upper body. Keep that lower leg tight and strong. Flexing on the kick forward, pointing as you go back. Or the slower you move, the easier it is to keep your form. Inhaling and exhaling. We'll do one more forward kick, last kick back, and then draw the legs right back to center. And now we'll move on to that ball between the ankles or ring between the ankles. If you don't have the prop, just keep the legs together. You're going to go all the way down to the floor and use that lower arm for neck support. That's when you are in a straight line from top of the head down to your toes. Lift both legs and lower. If you don't need that top hand for support on the mat, keep it over the legs. Squeezing that ring or ball a little tighter, making the inner thighs work. Trying to stay balanced on that lower hip. Exhaling as you lift. Draw the navel in, and always think longer, straighter legs. Now lift and hold it, and then do little beats where you're trying to squeeze that ball or ring a little tighter, hollowing out the abdomen. Good, lift the legs a little higher. And then when you're ready, you can finally relax. Go ahead and get rid of the ball or ring again, and we're gonna roll onto our belly, just as we did before when we finished the other side. This time we're gonna do some lifts, but with our arms extended out to straight. So get comfortable on your abdomen. Arms are long next to your ears. Scoot down my mat a bit. And we're gonna lift everything off the floor. So you lift the rib cage, you lift the legs, lifting those arms higher, and then fall down. Now you could just do the lower body again if you wanted to, if you didn't want to add the upper body to it. Lifting up and then lower down. Still breathing. Shoulders are shrugging down out of the ears. Do 2 more. Now 1 more lift and hold. And this is where we go right into the swimming. So as you're reaching those arms and legs for longer limbs, your shoulders are still shrugging down, your abs are still tight and pulled in, you're pulling up on the pelvic floor. Keep your neck in neutral so you're looking down to the mat, not outward to the wall in front of you. Lifting a little bit higher, still taking the deep breath up high in the rib cage. When you're ready, hold everything still, lift everything higher for 1 more deep breath, and then you can finally rest down. Bring your hands underneath your forehead, bend your knees, squeeze the heels together, and lift the knees off the mat, dropping the knees. Keeping those legs bent, you're gonna keep lifting and lowering. Really press the heels together so you feel the inner thighs working. Exhale with every lift. Try not to grip into your neck so your shoulders are still shrugging down out of the ears. Do 3 more lifts. And your last one. When you're ready, you can come up onto your elbows, but stay here on your belly for a moment because we're gonna do a thigh stretch. Make sure your knees are more in line with your hips and not winging out wide. And you're also not sinking into your shoulders like this, so stay lifted. We're gonna grab on to the ankle of the leg, the ankle of the leg, the ankle as you pull it into your hip. So it would be the arm on the same side as the leg. Still breathing. Pulling that heel to the hips, you feel that thigh stretch. If you wanted to, you could do more of a hip flexor stretch by trying to lift the knee off the floor. If the knee is lifted, drop it down and just pull that heel in 1 more time. And then we're gonna switch to the same thing on the other side. Remember, try to stay lifted out of the shoulder. The hand grabs to the same side of the ankle, and you're gonna pull it in. Pulling that heel deeper into the hip, and then lift the knee. Don't let that knee wing out. Keeping it right in line with the hip. If the knee is lifted, drop it to the floor and just do 1 more, pulling the heel in to feel that thigh stretch again. When you've had enough of that, we are gonna come up onto our hands and knees, just to go into a little child's pose stretch, and then we'll be on all 4s for those kneeling leg kicks. So when you sit back, just breathe into the stretch, breathe into the back of the rib cage, and then we're gonna be on all 4s, so that wrists are right underneath your shoulders, knees are underneath your hips. This is where we lift the knees up off the mat, but the knees up is optional. You feel free to just to keep the knees on the floor if you don't want to lift them up. If you can, hover the knees, pull the belly in, and then swing 1 leg up, lower down, kick the other leg up, and lower down. Keep a long straight line through your spine. You're not dropping chin to your chest, looking into the belly, and you're not looking outward to the wall in front of you. The back of the head is reaching to the ceiling behind you. Your arms are strong. Your shoulder blades are spread apart. Keep that lower knee just hovering as the opposite leg kicks. Do 1 more lift on each side, or at least even up your set. And then you can rest your knees down if you want for 1 more child's pose stretch, but we're gonna go into leg pull front on the next one. So we are gonna come into that full plank. Feel free to stay on your knees for the modified version, or go down to your elbows if you wanted the pressure out of the wrists. But this one is a straight leg lifting, lower down, lifting the other leg and lower. Keep pushing the floor away, strong arms. Abs are still tight and pulled in. Good. One more on each side. And then when you're ready, you can go ahead and rest back down. Sit back to your heels, lengthen the arms. So thigh stretch is next. This is where we stand tall on your knees. You feel free to come down to seated with legs straight out in front of you if you didn't want to do the kneeling version. If you have some props, you could hold the weights in your hands, the ring or the ball. I'm going to do the ring. So this knees are right underneath your hips. You're in a straight line from shoulders to knees. Arms that are straight out in front of you. You could do this with hands by your side though if you didn't have props. You're going to hinge back from the knees so you feel that thigh stretch and then pull forward. You do not want to arch your back and then return back to vertical. The movement is in the knees. As you're hinging back, think about engaging those inner thighs, pulling the belly in deeper, pulling up on the pelvic floor. Shoulders shrug down out of the ears. We'll do two more. Obviously, the last one is going to be the hardest. Feel free to take breaks if you need it. Fall back and hold it. Stay here, still pulling up on the pelvic floor. We're going to lift and lower the arms. Still engaging those inner thighs too, and drawing the navel in deeper. As the arms go up and down, you're still squeezing that ball or ring if you have it. And your last one. Return right back up to vertical, and then give yourself a break. So we're going to turn towards the side of your mat so you're facing the long edge. We're going to go into those kneeling leg kicks. You could sit on the floor if you wanted to and do the same side leg kicks that we did before. But if you can, stay on your knees, reach your arms out to the side, and as you tip over, you extend a leg. This top leg is going to lift and lower, pointing and flexing. The top arm can do whatever it wants. It could bend and bring hand behind your head, or you could put hand on your hip. Either one is fine. This lower arm is strong, pushing the floor away, so you stay lifted out of the shoulder. Long straight line through your spine. Now lift the leg at hip height. Keep it there. You're going to do the forward and back kick. So forward and back. If you want to add to the coordination, add the flexion in the ankle. So you flex as you go forward and then point the foot as you go back. Try not to move the upper body. Good. Do one more. And then you're going to bring it right back to center. Stay here just for a stretch because we're going to do a hard one next. Taking that top arm way overhead. You can just rest that lifted leg. Now when you come back to your straight line, you have the option here to come down to your elbow, but we're going to hopefully lift to a full side plank. So when you lift to this plank, we're going to do another set of what we were doing before. The top leg points and lifts, or you can just lift it. You don't even have to move the ankle if you don't want to. It's already plenty hard. Remember, you could do this on the elbow. You could do another set of the knee staying on the floor. Let's add the kicks to it where you go forward and back. That's good. Keep that lifted leg as high as you can. Stay strong and steady. We'll do one or two more. I think I can only handle two more. And then when you bring it back to center, you can rest the knee down and then do a stretch. Yeah, I wasn't going to make another one there, but when you're ready, reach your arms out to the side. And when you're ready, you're going to tip over. So we'll do the kneeling one first. Top arm can reach, can come behind your head. Feel free to bring hand on the hip. Lifting and lowering that top leg. You can always add that ankle movement into it if you want. Trying to lift that leg as high as you can. When you're ready, get that leg up and hold it. Swing forward and back. Flexing as you go forward, pointing as you go back. Good, two more kicks. Remember for the harder version, let's give yourself a stretch in between, taking that arm overhead. Remember for the harder version, you could go down onto your elbow. You could keep the knee on the floor and just do another set. If you can, we're gonna lift so both legs are straight. Top arm can do whatever it wants. It can come behind the head, or onto your hip, lifting and lowering that top leg. Still keep that lower arm strong, pushing the floor away. When you're ready, you're gonna lift the leg, hold it, and then swing forward and back. Still breathing. So much harder on balance on this side. You can do one or two more there. Can't even finish that set on that side. Definitely need more practice. When you're ready, you're gonna stretch. When you come back up, we're gonna come to seated. When you sit, you're gonna sit with legs straight out in front of you, and we're gonna do our spine stretch forward. Now here's your chance to take a break, because you can make spine stretch forward really easy, but try to make it hard on yourself by tightening the legs, flexing the feet, growing taller, pulling the belly in, and then reaching your arms forward. Now the upper spine flexes forward, and then grow tall, stacking back up. The whole time, you got to think about narrowing that waistline as you round the upper spine and then stack back up. But always be aware of the shoulders so they don't roll up into your neck. The shoulders are always slid down. Exhale forward. Inhale, grow tall. We'll do one more, stretching that upper spine, and then coming right back up. Draw the legs together, glue them together, keep your arms reaching, and we're gonna do the rotation. So as you twist, reach that arm back, come back to face front, and then go to the other side. Growing taller. Really think about narrowing the waistline. Longer arms reaching away from center. Do one more twist on each side. When you come back to center, we're gonna hold. So now we're gonna do leg pull again, but this is the one where we face the ceiling. So keep the legs together, just point the feet, bring your hands back behind you. Remember, you could just sit here and keep the hips on the floor, especially if the wrist can't tolerate any more pressure, but you're gonna lift the hips up and hold. Lift one leg, lower down, lift the other leg. The leg lifts are optional. You could just sit here and hold the plank. Get those legs longer. Get the hips a little higher if you can. Exhale as you lift. You have one more on each side. After you drop your hips, you're gonna fold forward over the legs and stretch, pulling yourself in deeper. Come back up to seated. We're gonna do our tree. So ab workout, it doubles as a hamstring stretch. So hold on to the back of the leg with one leg bend. Sit up tall, kick the leg to straight, bend it, kick to straight, bend, kick to straight, and hold it. Flex the foot, walk your hands up that leg and pull yourself in. Your shoulders are shrugging down, still breathe. Keep the leg lifted as you walk down that leg and hold yourself in this halfway invisible lounge chair position. So you're reclining, holding, keeping yourself squared off, facing forward. Let go of the lifted leg if you can and still breathe. Bring your hands back to the leg, walk to the top again, and pull yourself in. Go ahead and relax that leg. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Sit tall, kick, bend, kicking and bending. Do one more and hold it. Walk your hands up that leg, pull yourself in, shoulders shrug down, still breathing. Walk your hands down the leg about halfway and just hold. Stay here, holding, reclining, still breathe. Make sure both legs are still working legs. Don't let the lower leg get lazy. When you're ready, bring your hands back to the leg, walk to the top and pull yourself in for another stretch. And then you can finally relax. Turn for mermaid. So when you're sitting for mermaid, it's that Z sit. With this, try to square off facing forward. Keep the hip really close to the floor. It's okay if it's lifted a little bit. Just depends on the tightness in your hips. You're gonna stretch away from the feet as you fold over. And then come up and stretch in the direction of the feet. Deep breath. And then exhale. Remember, you're always hollowing out the abdomen. Let's fall over, stretch, and add the twist. Looking at the floor, twist back to face front, and then come all the way back up and stretch. Stay facing this direction, just swing the legs to the other side. Square yourself off facing forward. When you're ready, stretch away from the legs. No tension in the neck. Still hollowing out the abdomen. Fall over and hold. Twist, looking at the floor. Twist back to face front, and then come all the way back up and stretch. Good, soles of the feet are together, and then you're gonna lean into the legs. When you come back to center, we are gonna get into teaser. We're gonna get into teaser from a seated position. Bring your legs together. Hands are behind the legs for the easier version if you need the arms to help hold the legs up. Otherwise, just reach your arms forward. Shoulders shrug down, fall back halfway. Bring those legs up to tabletop, hold and breathe. Tabletop is always an option to make this easier. If you can, extend the legs to straight and then hold. Feel free to challenge your balance and bring those arms up. Come out of teaser anytime you want if you want to come out earlier, but we're going to try to hold this because we're going to give you the leg lift challenge. One leg falls, bring it back up. Other leg falls, bring it back up. Still breathing. Do one more on each side. Now hold, and then when you're ready, you can bend your knees, rest your feet back down. Make sure you scoot forward for rolling like a ball so that we don't end up hitting something behind us. Remember, for this one, we'll do a couple rocks, and on the last one, I'm gonna give you the challenge to cross your ankles and pop yourself up to standing. So maybe let's aim for 4 rolls, and on the last one, we'll come up to standing. Hollow out the abdomen, your shoulders are shrugging down out of the ears. Try and do 2 more. After this last roll, you're gonna cross your ankles, come up, and pull yourself up to standing. Make sure you walk to the back of your mat, and we're gonna go into some Pilates push-ups here. When we get down to that push-up, feel free to go down onto your knees or just hold the plank if you don't wanna do the push-up. But stand at the back of your mat, reach your arms up, round your spine down. It's okay if you need to bend the knees to get your hands to the floor, then you're gonna walk yourself out to the top of the mat. When you're out here in the plank, aim for 6 push-ups, feel free to do more. Bend on the inhale, exhale, push away. Keep the neck in neutral so you don't sink face to the floor. Every time you straighten the arms too, focus on the upper back, pulling those shoulder blades apart. You can do your last push-up, and then when you're ready, drop to your knees, sit back to your heels, and lengthen the arms to straight. Now you can come up to standing for these next bit of stretches because we've done them standing or kneeling. I'm gonna do kneeling just for the sake of the camera height here. I'm coming back to the back edge of my mat closer so that one foot could go forward. And this one, we're gonna lean into a lunge. So if you're doing the standing version, you're just gonna look like this. And then it ends up transitioning into a hamstring stretch here in a moment. When you're in this hip flexor stretch, try to breathe into it. Keep your hips squared off facing forward. Keep your abs in, your shoulders down. When you're ready, shift your weight back so the hips come back over that back heel. Fold into the front straight leg. When you're ready, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Try to get that forward foot pretty far forward to give yourself a deeper stretch. Remember, if this bothers the knee that's on the ground, you could keep that back knee lifted up and hold your lunge. When you're ready to go into that hamstring stretch, shift your weight back so that forward leg goes straight and lean into that forward leg. Still breathing. Shoulders are shrugging down, your abs are tight and pulled in. Good job. Let's come back to seated. So when you're sitting on the floor, you can sit with legs straight. Just so we'll do one more hamstring stretch with both legs straight. Arms up to the ceiling, and then fold down into both legs. Pull yourself in deeper. When you bring yourself up to seated, just sit tall however you're comfortable, shoulders up, and then shoulders down. You can do a couple neck rolls in one direction. Make sure you do your neck rolls in the opposite direction too, releasing any tension in the neck. Now when you bring your arms up to the ceiling, reach them long, lengthen your spine, grab onto one wrist and pull it towards the opposite side. We'll do the same thing to the other side. When you center yourself with those arms overhead, hold. Make sure you're pulling the belly in and squeezing the glutes because I want you to arch back into a little extension. Return back to straight, arms down, keep your shoulders down and your abs in. And after that, you're all done.